I know for a fact I drove away some friends. Test, 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 test. Hello, 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 hello. Two viewers. Hello, viewers. Thursday, April 13th, 1933. Our little church. Hang on. Our little church is painted white, and in the safety of the night, we all go quiet as a mouse, for the word is out. God is in the house. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I wrote that before I knew how much of a Zionist he was, but I don't know. I'll keep it. Chapter 32. Ananias. He woke in his own bed with his two adopted daughters on either side of him, sleeping soundly. In his own bed with his two adopted daughters on either side of him, sleeping soundly. It was all a bit disorienting. It was all a bit disorienting. He sat up. Lou Bell and Ruth's arms fell from him like leaves. Groggily, he got up from the bed and limped forward. Groggily he got up. Groggily he stood up. Stood up from the bed and limped toward the window. It was the most beautiful day he had ever seen. The water left on the ground and the sunlight peeking through the dissipating clouds. Dissipating clouds made the world glimmer and shine. A peculiar patch of sunlight settled in Daja's garden, and the tomatoes and basil simmered and filled his nostrils. Even a butterfly landed on a flower, turned it into his best friend, then flew off on its way. On its way. Its way. Bubbles turned to look at the sleeping girls. They were out. His heavy footsteps on the old wood would not wake them. He left the room. Shafts of light brightened the apartment in spots. If Bubbles were willing to remain in the spot for several hours, he might watch these shafts make their way across the apartment, walk up the wall, and then disappear momentarily as noon came, then return to the other side. Afternoon, dust. Afternoon, dusk, night, a whole day in a single hallway, a single point on earth. He walked to the kitchen. There, that dreaded stain. It had until recently been the love of his life. The blotch, the blight that darkened to a brown, darker than the wood around it. A bulbous sham, the tumor of the house, wet, endless. He walked over this strange stain and stood over it. He fell on his knees by its side and wept, running his fingerprints along the discoloration. He looked at his hands, expecting the nasty substance to go away on them, but they were a clean kaleidoscopic blur. He covered himself, shook, and sobbed, and didn't hear Lubell and Ruth enter the kitchen behind him. They stepped to either side of him and put their hands on his shoulders. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Put their hands on his shoulders. He held their little hands together as tightly as he dared. Then he pulled them close to him, and there they all sat holding one another. But no amount of love could take his mind away from the stain. He sat on the edge of the stoop. He felt oddly good, only drained. A flock of birds came from somewhere and rested on power lines. He listened to them sing her name while Ruth read from the family Bible, almost as big as her. Lubell stood at her sister's side, watching her read. "And Saul," Ruth said, "yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went into the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus to the synagogues," said Lubell. "Synagogues, that if he found any come this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven, and he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, who thou persecutest. He listened to their words and the birds on the wires, trying to anticipate the pattern of their chirps. everything heady and erupted. A torn-up newspaper sailed across on the wind, spun around, and flew on. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord saith unto him, Arise, and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. He watched the soft morning wind, so different from the day before, run its fingers along the trees. He heard music in the rustling leaves, and the sound of the children playing with broken branches that had been torn apart during the last night's storm. That was when the first neighbor saw him. Reverend Browning. The girls stopped reading. He lifted his head up imperceptibly. Imperceptibly? Imperceptibly. Is that what I meant to say? Imperceptibly? Is that what I meant? It was Henrietta Brooks, a midwife in her 40s. Her family had been going to his church in the days of Daja's father. Henrietta looked at him with amazement. Oh, Reverend, I heard you were back. Oh, bless the day. How are you? Sandra told us you were gone. After the police picked you up, just vanished. We did fear the worst, but to see you back again, I ought to go. But I'll be back. Do you like peach cobbler? You kids like peach cobbler? Lou Bell and Ruth looked at one another. We like it just fine, ma'am. I got 2 viewers and no chatters. Be sure you like the stream, comment, and subscribe, and do all the good things. It really helps out. Thank you very much. I love you. I'll come right back with some peach cobbler for you girls, and I'll bring Davis when he gets back from the shop. He'll come by and see if you need any help around the house. Now don't you disappear on us again. She walked away, still talking about what she was going to do for the Brownings. I didn't think Mrs. Brooks knew how to cook, said Ruth. Only on special occasions, said Lou Bell. Her eyes. One moment, please. I'm letting some people know I'm streaming. Something from your mind. Something for your mind. Something for your mind. Something for your mind, 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 mind. Something for your mind. Casey Jones. That's a good song. I should play that. Casey Jones hit the river bottom. Casey Jones broke his bloomin' spine. I didn't think Miss Brooks knew how to cook, said Ruth. Only on special occasions, said Lou Bell, her eyes staring at the spot where the woman had been. Within an hour, they had a dozen or so visitors. Everyone had a meal for them, and a husband who looked at a room, inspected the drywall, the wood paneling, the door hinges, the plumbing. The wives brought over cornbread and collard greens, pickled herring and chickpeas. Mrs. Stansfield brought corn on the cob, and Mr. Stansfield cleared the yard of tree branches and debris that had gathered after last night's storm. Before you realized it had happened, someone had covered up the blood stain in the kitchen with a rug he had never seen before. It was a peculiar sight, these neighbors. It was a peculiar sight watching these neighbors step on a covered spot he had just wept over a few hours prior. Some neighbors brought their children, who came with toys for Lou Bell and Ruth. The girls thanked the guests, even the ones they didn't particularly care for. They didn't particularly care. Casey Jones, the engineer. The ones obviously forced in this whole situation by their parents, and setting the toys and games aside of the room, and set the toys and games aside of the room. They were both a little too overwhelmed to do anything other than sit by their father. Watching him endure the comforting hands on his shoulders, the inquiries about his health. I might sneeze. I might. Bless me. Can I get a blessing? Can I get a witness to testify? Oh, I'm sure. Other than sit by their father, watching him endure the comforting hands on his shoulders, the inquiries about his health, the endless offers to help, or simply babysit. But he declined. No thanks. I think those girls can take care of themselves. It was the only time he spoke to them all day. All around him, Sandra Barnes, moving like a candle, deflected the guests in a manner unnoticed. This went on for hours. Until she decided it had to end, she shooed the others away and ignored Sally Jefferson's wry look. She organized the food so that it was out of sight and told the children to go out and play. For the love of Jesus, get out of here, you two. Go on, get. The girls looked at each other and sprinted out the door. He watched them as they flew away like birds on a line. And shut the door when you leave the house. I know you two weren't raised in a barn, she called after them. She finished cleaning. talking much beyond some local gossip. He remained in the dining room chair, the same he had sat in just the other day. Listening to Molly Domain tell her story, he listened to Sandra walk back and forth over the mat that covered Naja's stain. After a while, Sandra followed his gaze toward the mat. She lifted it up and saw what it had been covering. Without a word, she left and came back 20 minutes later with bleach, rubber gloves, and steel wool. She scrubbed the stain until it was a bleached spot of white and otherwise darkened wood. Casey Jones. Then she went over to it with wood paneling paint and left it there to dry. Oops. Let's take a walk, she said when she had finished. She put her hands underneath his shoulders and lifted him upward. He offered no resistance whatsoever. Passively rising with her intention, she guided him out the door onto the street. She hooked her arm through his, and together they walked down 55th Street toward the university. The day seemed even more beautiful than when he'd left his home. He swore the same birds were following them down the road, stopping every few feet or so to sing them another passage of song before flying a bit farther on to catch up. Boys and bicycles flew by in the opposite direction, deep into conversation. Another boy, bikeless, ran to catch up with his friends. While he took note of all this, Sandra spoke. This is all over my head. I knows it. I don't know where you run off to, and frankly I don't care. There's a lot in this world we all better off not knowing. What that is up to God to decide. But I know this, and I'm gonna say my piece and then I'm gonna be gone. Those kids need a father. They've lost one and they've lost their mother. They've lost one already and they've lost their mother. Casey Jones. They's all alone in the world. I just need to know if you planning on doing something stupid like get yourself killed. He stopped walking and looked at her. Let me finish. You think God has wronged you because he took away your wife? He didn't wrong you. He's giving you a test, Robert. Casey Jones. To prove your faith, your devotion to Naja, your devotion to those little girls. Casey Jones, hit the river bottom. You owe to them. You owe to them, girl. Casey Jones broke his bloomin' spine to be a good father who's gonna be killed. 'Cause if you are, and I know you're thinking about it, then you, Robert Browning, are the most selfish man I've ever met. 'Cause it ain't just those kids that need you. It's everyone and everything all around you. Your congregation, your community, your people. That flock that needs the shepherd. Shepherd. And you're a good shepherd. What the fuck? The best I've ever seen. But if you're planning on dying, tell me now so I can take those precious babies as far away from you as possible. Broke his bloomin' spine. Bibbis. She let these words sink in. Behind Sandra's head, the flock of birds that had been stalking them since they left Robert's house flew away, scattering in all directions, grouping together in the sky. And then flying north, a shaft of sunlight crashing through a cloud, warming his skin. Thank you, Sandra, said Robert. Robert. More? Morse? I'm gonna delete this. Casey Jones hit the river bottom. Casey Jones broke his bloomin' spine. Please like the stream. If you like the stream, please comment. Leave a comment. Send me the love of the masses, please. Dear God. I'm going to take a quick break, and I might be back. I'll probably be back, but I'm going to take a quick break. BRB.